Good morning, Sawadee Kap. Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to you all present here and those listening in online. I'm Jenny Sinkala from the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. My task this afternoon is to explain why we convened this forum and introduce our moderator. The whole world is reeling from severe effects of COVID-19, climate change, worsening poverty, and a lot of disharmony. The Global South in particular has seen the COVID-19 pandemic overlaid on top of the ongoing longer-term development challenges. Within this context, we have called for this leadership roundtable for two purposes. The first one is that the UN Secretary General has underlined that we need solidarity and multilateralism to navigate these stormy waters. In his document, Our Common Agenda, we see that South-South cooperation can be a big part of the solution. Solidarity is a fundamental bedrock of South-South cooperation. Secondly, for several years, a number of countries have called for a high-level ministerial dialogue on South-South cooperation, including issues relating to its financing. The last such call was made during the 20th High-Level Committee on South-South cooperation in 2021. The High-Level Committee is the highest policy-making body on South-South cooperation. The UN Secretary General has also encouraged ministerial-level leadership dialogue, including at fora like the Global South-South Development Expo, this one, and the forthcoming ministerial conference on leveraging South-South and triangular cooperation to implement the Doha Program of Action for LDC 5. Such dialogue will help examine the contribution of South-South and triangular cooperation to sustainable development goals and provide guidance and recommendations to the United Nations system on supporting member states in key priority areas like poverty reduction, climate change, COVID-19 recovery, social protection, and health, among others. This leadership roundtable is just the beginning of such a process towards a ministerial dialogue on South-South and triangular cooperation, and will help to define the broad scope and contours of this strategic platform. Now then, I have the pleasure to introduce our moderator for the ministerial dialogue for the day, who will introduce her distinguished high-level panel. Our moderator for today's leadership roundtable is Ms. Pachari Rakwasong. Ms. Raksawong is a renowned television personality and radio news presenter in Thailand and the region. She's a familiar face at the international fora. She has been Master of Ceremony, moderator of national, regional, and international events, and she has also handled a number of United Nations events. Ms. Raksawong is also a lecturer in public speaking. Kun Pachari, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngala, for the background details of this next session and also for your very kind introduction there. Now, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests present here on site at ESCAP Hall, as well as everybody joining us online. Once again, a very warm welcome to this Leadership Roundtable 2, our common agenda, a ministerial dialogue. Now, it's a tough job I have because it's this session just before the lunch break, but I will try my utmost to keep you all engaged and alert. And I promise you that I will be also playing strict timekeeper, so 1 hour from now. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today we take this opportunity to reflect on the vital role of solidarity and collaboration to support the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals while also effectively recovering from the global COVID-19 crisis. We're challenged with the climate issues, and now borrowing the words from the UN Secretary General, having just visited the flood-stricken nation of Pakistan this weekend, climate carnage We also have to be concerned about the outbreaks of conflict, as we all must come together to seek effective ways to build forward better. Now, the impact of the pandemic has been especially high, especially grave for the millions of people in the South, and developing countries have taken the lead in expressing their solidarity with each other by providing much needed support. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, we're going to seize this opportunity to reflect on the vital role of South-South solidarity and collaboration to support the delivery of the SDGs while effectively recovering from the pandemic in the global South. We'll also discuss the prerequisites in terms of policy, partnerships required, and the institutional arrangements needed for enhancing solidarity through ministerial dialogues. And of course, it means a lot. Your thoughts, your reflections, we will be taking your questions. We want you to be a part of our discussion. We have the Q&A session towards the end after we hear the statements from our distinguished panelists. We officially begin this leadership roundtable with a welcoming remark. So if I may direct your attention to the two big screens here, delighted and honored to be welcoming His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, MP, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh and co-convener of the leadership roundtable. He joins us live. So we'll have him, His Excellency, up on the screen.
Hello, do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, Your Excellency, please.
Thank you. Honorable ministers, lawmakers from around the globe, ambassadors and high commissioners, special envoys, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here today at this august occasion. A very timely occasion, I must say. For this is a time of great tumult, a time of great uncertainties, yet a time for great options and opportunities. What is it that is coming towards us? Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the last century, we have seen two great wars, one Cold War and the end of colonization, oil shocks, property and dot-com bubbles, several global financial and economic meltdowns, numerous nefarious conflicts and sinister epidemics, each of which claim millions of souls. And yet at the same time, we have also seen the birth of the computer, cell phone, GPS, and the internet, the many journeys into the space and to moon and Mars and beyond, breathtaking breakthroughs in biology and bioinformatics, amongst many other such inventions and discoveries, each of which sprung ecosystem privileges which helped save millions and brought millions of others from the vicious cycle of poverty, both financial and intellectual. In last 100 years, we have made forays into the many realms of knowledge and technologies which was previously unthinkable for more than a few millennia of the recorded history of mankind. Literally, the whole human civilization has taken a rebirth in just over 100 years. But having said so, I believe the next rebirth of the civilization will not take 100 years. Rather, it would probably be next 15 to 20 years. 50 years. A foundational tech like the YouTube, blockchains, IoTs, and biotics takes us into an era of AI and artificially constructed immersive realities which recalibrate the way we interact with the reality around us, the way we see ourselves and the way we see those around us. While the matter might be a regular narrative discourse in the West, or for that matter in the North, it is not so easy for those of us in the South. The global South is marked by institutional voids and is populated with bottom-up pyramid markets. The institutional voids which permeate through all of us in the global South emanates primarily from absence of South-South forum and an over-dependence on financial resources and then being constrained by the deficiencies in such resources. Tech and innovation offers a very entrepreneurial way out of this morass for all of us, and not only those in the South. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh is all about cooperation, collaboration, and co-creation. Our motto, as was outlined by the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, is friendship to all, malice towards none. Our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, under whose dynamic leadership we have traversed a long development path in the short possible time in last 1 decade, has identified innovation and entrepreneurship as the way of the future. We used to reconfigure the way that we do business and the way we connect markets. We plan on solving the existential problems of food, fuel, finance, and climate change with power of human mind and with that of the human imagination. We believe that we can engineer ourselves out of the apse of hopelessness and of shock with determined efforts and creative ingenuities. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 hit almost all of us across all of the countries of the South. It damaged lives and societies and ultimately depreciated productive assets and capabilities and affected health and economies around the globe. Coupled with the Ukraine crisis, the global economy is facing some of the toughest challenges we have ever faced in the recent times. Rising price inflations, a breakdown of financial and supply chains due to varieties of sanctions and rate imbalances, all have contributed in circular manner towards aggravating the situation. Adverse changes in the climate and natural disasters of a global magnitude loom ever larger. Therefore, solidarity is much needed. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the best of times and these are the worst of times. Where we would go would depend on great extent to where we would wish to go. As I understand, you see, whenever we have an institutional framework, it really helps the member state. Let me give one little example. We have some institutional framework. For example, ASEAN, 10 member states, they create an organization known as ASEAN. And after they created ASEAN, the trade and investment within the ASEAN countries, the intertrade, has sharply increased. It was around 10 billion, but now in 2016, the data I have, the ASEAN intertrade has shot up to $2.2 trillion. It is because one of the main reasons is the bottlenecks, the potentials they can explore within the ASEAN group. And therefore, the trade has shot up, not only trade, also their foreign direct investment within the region has increased from 5.6% in 2000 to 24.7% in 2016. So it appears that whenever you have a group, institutional arrangement, it helps the member states. Same with the, if you look at the European Union, their exports within the region, within the European region, has shot up to $3.4 trillion in 2021. No wonder that we should look forward for creating a forum of finance, development ministers and foreign ministers of South countries so that they can discuss, explore, and design ways out as to how to help improve their economies and the well-being of their people. More so, currently, many of the industrialized countries are becoming more inward-looking, more protectionist, and they are not ready to finance SDGs. Therefore, we need such organization. In the industrial countries, their resources for financing is dwindling. Industrial countries nowadays they did not meet their own promise. Except 6 countries, no other the developed partners could come up with their ODA commitment, neither with the Paris commitment. So under this, and since COVID-19 and Ukraine, polarization is becoming more and more intense. Disregard for international laws and these are happening. Therefore, I think my friends, my colleagues, it is time for southern countries. I can talk about my own COVID situation. We started to get the COVID vaccine from the very beginning. But unfortunately, southern countries were not producing the COVID vaccine. And therefore, it was difficult for us to procure it. But one country, southern country, they initially helped us. And then, of course, the developed partners came to help us under the COVID. But that's pretty late, few weeks after the COVID situation came up. So therefore, it is possibly time for us to create a forum of finance, foreign and development ministers of the southern countries so that they can discuss, debate and explore the potentials of cooperation within the southern countries. And this could be a good forum because we see alternatively the developed countries, they have their own forum. G7, G8, G20, name it. They can discuss their issues and come up with, the ways for forward. And therefore, it may be time for the countries in the South to come up with a forum and that would help improving the well-being and welfare of the people of the southern countries. Thank you very much and God bless all of you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Minister Momen. He will join us for the Q&A, so please note down your questions and pose them to him during the Q&A session. But His Excellency has just further highlighted the many, many challenges that we must take by the horns and come together to find solutions to. He ended in a positive note. He said that we do have institutional warriors in the South. And he also said that Bangladesh is extremely keen on collaboration, on partnerships going forward with intergovernmental organizations, and that solidarity is very key. And now we're going to move on to the statements by our distinguished panelists. We're going to begin with His Excellency Mr. Santiago Andres Caferro, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of International Trade and Worship of Argentina. Argentina holds the presidency of the High-Level Committee on South-South Cooperation 2021 to 2023. His Excellency unfortunately could not be with us in person, but he has kindly sent in a video message based on the questions that we had asked him. Argentina, distinguished guests, hosted the 1978 Buenos Aires Conference on Technical Cooperation Among Developing Countries, or BAPA, and also the second United Nations High-Level Conference on South-South Cooperation in 2019, BAPA Plus 40. These two conferences have contributed immensely to the South-South and triangular cooperation agenda. Some of the gains made through South-South and triangular cooperation have been sadly reversed due to COVID-19. We did ask His Excellency for his thoughts and to also suggest as urgent steps that the Global South and the international community should take towards making progress on the Sustainable Development Agenda. And also, would His Excellency support a formalized ministerial dialogue process to accelerate the contribution of South-South and triangular cooperation? His Excellency will be delivering his statement in Spanish, and will now go to the big screen and listen to His Excellency's response.
Es una gran satisfacción para mí poder participar en este diálogo ministerial en torno al rol de la cooperación sur-sur y triangular para la recuperación post-COVID, y en este sentido quisiera agradecerles el permitirme estar presente desde Buenos Aires, especialmente hoy que celebramos el Día Internacional de las Naciones Unidas para la Cooperación Sur-Sur. El actual escenario nos enfrenta a renovados y exigentes desafíos. En la búsqueda de soluciones a esta crisis, la cooperación sur-sur se erige como un instrumento esencial para los países del sur global. Por ello, resulta vital que encontremos medios para profundizarla y orientarla hacia una arquitectura cada vez más solidaria e inclusiva. El año 2020 marcó un punto de inflexión para el multilateralismo y la cooperación internacional. La crisis nos afectó a todos, pero golpeó muy fuertemente a los países en desarrollo, evidenciando y exacerbando fuertemente las brechas de pobreza y desigualdad. En América Latina y el Caribe, la pandemia ha impactado duramente en la actividad económica, en el nivel de empleo y en el bienestar social general. En este sentido, se vuelve primordial trabajar juntos para construir un nuevo paradigma de la cooperación internacional que lleve soluciones efectivas y preste atención a los desafíos particulares de todos los países en desarrollo. Asimismo, la crisis torna más evidente la necesidad de que los países desarrollados intensifiquen sus esfuerzos para cumplir con sus compromisos históricos con el desarrollo. Por otro lado, resulta vital profundizar las propuestas de cooperación que den continuidad a los mandatos de la segunda conferencia de alto nivel de las Naciones Unidas para la Cooperación Sur-Sur, que la Argentina tuvo el honor de organizar. En este aspecto, quisiera subrayar la importancia de profundizar el financiamiento a la cooperación a través de las alianzas con los organismos multilaterales, con la sociedad civil y con el sector privado. Creemos que la conformación de estas alianzas permitirá potenciar la cooperación y coordinación de acciones y transferencia de recursos, capacidades y tecnología, contribuyendo a los objetivos de la Agenda 2030. Quisiera además destacar que la República Argentina está convencida del potencial que tiene la cooperación internacional como aporte efectivo a los procesos de desarrollo y ha hecho de la cooperación sur-sur una parte integral de su política exterior. En este marco, el Fondo Argentino de Cooperación Internacional, el FOAR, está cumpliendo 30 años en la construcción de asociaciones para el desarrollo, tanto en nuestra región como en Asia, África y el Caribe. Tenemos la voluntad de continuar contribuyendo al desarrollo y bienestar de la humanidad de manera activa y coordinada en los distintos foros multilaterales, principalmente en Naciones Unidas. Actualmente, nuestro país preside el Comité de Alto Nivel de las Naciones Unidas para la Cooperación Sur-Sur y desde esta plataforma busca articular posiciones comunes y generar sinergias entre los espacios regionales y las instancias de las Naciones Unidas. Nuestro país, a través de la Agencia Argentina de Cooperación Internacional y Asistencia Humanitaria, se encuentra organizando un evento paralelo en los márgenes de la 77 Asamblea General de Naciones Unidas sobre oportunidades y desafíos de la cooperación internacional del desarrollo para los países de renta media, el cual va a tener lugar el próximo 19 de septiembre en el marco de la Asamblea. En este sentido, quisiera aprovechar la oportunidad para invitarlos a todos ustedes a participar de dicho evento. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Mr. Santiago Andres Caferro, for taking the time. He's just reiterated the importance of South-South cooperation and multilateralism in reducing inequalities and also in tackling all the challenges. And he also stated that we must continue to forge ahead to find the best solutions, and we must stay committed to our established mandates. Once again, thank you very much indeed to you. My next question is for Her Excellency Ms. Nancy Tembo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malawi. Now, Malawi holds the chairmanship of the group of least developed countries, and COVID-19, distinguished guests, changed the way we perceive development. For the most part, the international community did not live up to the mantra of not leaving anyone behind. So how can we turn this around, arrive at a positive direction? How can we work together? Address investing in our future in terms of finance and technology, alleviate debt stress that many LDCs are facing. Let's now go over to Minister Tembo for her reflections.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the government of Thailand and the United Nations for South cooperation for hosting such a timely and important event. I wish to answer this question on COVID-19 by giving an overview of the impacts the COVID-19 pandemic has had on least developed countries. Even before the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was estimated that nearly 30% of the population in LDCs would remain in extreme poverty by 2030. Upward trends in extreme poverty and gender inequality in LDCs since the COVID-19 outbreak suggest compounding impacts of the crisis caused by the pandemic. As LDCs, we saw our economies significantly shrink in 2020 amid a severe global recession caused by the pandemic. Our external debt burden and debt service obligations are rising significantly. Gains made over the past decade in poverty reduction have been wiped out. Increased food insecurity and malnutrition and already fragile health systems saw resources shifted away from urgent health and life-saving treatments. The average annual investment requirements to end extreme poverty in LDCs is estimated at $485 billion US. Yet we received only 6% of private finance mobilized by development finance interventions between 2012 and 2018, despite an increase in volume. The inexorable and increasing effects of climate change continue unabated. We are facing heightened vulnerability to environmental shocks, endangering the lives and livelihoods of 14% of the world's population. This is having a deep impact on our microeconomic stability, as well as reversing many years of achievements in the reduction of poverty and inequality. As LDCs, we have made strides in improving access to information and communications technology, sustainable energy, health, education, gender, and governance. Internet access in LDCs rose from about 5% in 2011 to 19% in 2019, while access to electricity increased significantly from 35% in 2011 to 52% in 2018. Primary education enrollment also continued to increase. However, 16% of the LDCs are now in various stages of the graduation process. This process is at risk of being delayed due to the impacts of the pandemic and climate change. As the most vulnerable group of countries, we need enhanced global support to overcome these challenges. More than ever before, we need the full contribution and cooperation of the Global South to build more resilient economies and equitable societies and achieve technology and digital leapfrogging. South-South triangular cooperation is contributing to sustainable development and a resilient recovery in LDCs, but its full potential has not yet been fully realized. The newly endorsed Doha Program of Action for LDCs for the decade 2022 to 2021 falls within the remaining decade of action for SDG implementation. South-South cooperation could play an important role in accelerating the full implementation of the 2030 agenda and the achievement of the development goals and targets of the LDCs. It outlines areas where South-South cooperation can generate impactful results, such as productive capacity building, infrastructure development, energy, science, technology, trade investment, and transit transport cooperation. I call on developed and developing countries to further strengthen their commitment to leverage South-South and triangular cooperation initiatives and platforms to support national and regional development efforts in LDCs. They need to work with us, LDCs, to strengthen institutional and technical capacities, improve the exchange of experience and know-how, and promote peer and cross-regional learning. However, this requires continued financial and technical support from the international community for LDCs to invigorate and advance South-South solutions as we strive to transition to a greener, more productive, more inclusive, and more resilient future. Additionally, Southern partners can provide concrete support to us through investment and provision of education for youth, including access to digital learning and skills development. South-South cooperation can tailor to the expressed needs of LDCs for digital transformation by harnessing the ICT to narrow the digital divide and fast-track sustainable development. Innovative solutions, including South-South digital cooperation and financing arrangements, will strengthen our efforts in building resilient and adaptive capacity to climate change. As chair of the group of the LDCs, I'm calling upon countries of the Global South to further strengthen their support to LDCs in all these areas in a predictable manner along the lines of the Buenos Aires outcome document of the second high-level United Nations Conference on South Cooperation. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nancy Tembo, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malawi, speaking to us. She's just outlined the impacts of COVID-19 on the Global South, as well as the domino effects, delaying and for some reversing the achievements so far. And once again, in line with the previous speakers, commitment in partnerships as well as solidarity is significant in reaching our full potential. And now over to another distinguished guest who is present with us here, a very familiar face, the Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, Ms. Amida Salcia Alice Jabana. Thank you so much for your presence with us. Now, the UN Secretary General's common agenda mentions the need to strengthen the engagement of the United Nations system with regional and sub-regional intergovernmental organizations, which in most instances are institutions of the Global South. The regional commissions have specifically been asked to lead this initiative. Could you please share with us your views on how this can be operationalized, given that there are several such intergovernmental organizations in the Asia-Pacific region? We've got ASEAN, BIMSTEC, and the Economic Cooperation Organization, just to name a few. Over to you, Ms. Alice Jabana.
Thank you very much for the question, Kun Pachari. So indeed, SG Guterres in our common agenda would like to advance this multilateralism further through or to be more inclusive, which meaning to involve all stakeholders concerned, as well as to benefit and leverage for stronger networking with the regional and sub-regional organization. Again, you already mentioned a few, but also to include actually the multilateral development banks, in which in our region, for example, we have ADB, AIIB. So that's the first point. Second point is, again, if we see, let's say, out of 5 regions, according to UN definition, all region or respective region have their unique or different context, or setup or setting. So let me just refer or give example from our region, which is Asia Pacific. As the region is so vast and diverse, so therefore it is also vast and diverse in terms of its regional, sub-regional organization. We see again, if I can just mention a few examples from each respective, if I may call it sub-regions. In the Pacific, we have PIFs, Pacific Island Forums. In Southeast Asia, we have ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And then South Asia, we have SAARC, BIMSTEC, although BIMSTEC not only a specific South Asian country, because BIMSTEC also involves Myanmar as well, Thailand, and then going to Central Asia, Central, but some South Asian countries, some East Asian countries. Yeah, so we have, for example, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we have ECO, we have EEC, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's the second point. Third is on the mechanism of cooperation or collaboration. So with regard to the membership, or member states of the respective organization and ESCAP, I think majority are ESCAP member state, the organization that I mentioned. So therefore, it would be very beneficial, and we've been doing so, and we are scaling up further to strengthen the collaboration. If I may give you one particular example, that we have sort of built quite a strong collaboration, and we hope to also equally have a similar collaboration with the other sub-regional organization. So with ASEAN, I think this is a very good example in which the collaboration with ASEAN is not only ESCAP, of course, broader UN is being framed within the ASEAN UN Plan of Action. Now we enter the second phase, 2022-2025, and furthermore is also being complemented by the so-called complementarities roadmap, ASEAN Vision 2025 with SDGs, in which in this case is led coordinator of SDGs for ASEAN is Thailand. Likewise, we are strengthening with PIPS, we are strengthening with SCO. In fact, tomorrow, I'm going to Samarkand to attend SCO Summit to sign the MOU with SCO. So the third point is on the mechanism I already mentioned, the one with ASEAN, in which DPPA leads on behalf of UN for the political security pillar as well as secretariat to secretariat coordination, whereas ESCAP on behalf of UN coordinates the economic and socio-culture pillar as well as the cross-cutting pillar. And we have this routine coordination, including we also contribute in the various streams of ASEAN work and so on, and we work closely with the ASEAN Secretariat, so therefore is very effective. And the fourth point that I would like also to share in this context is on the substance, priority areas of cooperation. Of course, as UN, all of us, including ESCAP, we anchor in SDGs, that is our primary or focus here. How to advance SDGs, the various goals. Second, all the various global development commitments, such as climate action, the Paris Climate Agreement, and so on and so forth, And the needs of the sub-region or countries in the sub-region, as well as how to leverage further our expertise, because we cannot, effectively collaborate if it's not also based on our expertise, So just to name a few of the areas that we've been working closely with the sub-regional or regional organization, especially issues related to transboundary cross-border, including the climate action, of course, environment, issues of priority, again, I mentioned to the countries concerned, COVID-19 mitigation, and of course now we are entering how to recover. But aside from that, the geopolitical impact of the various situation that we have to also take priority as relates to food, energy, and finance. And all this, I'm also very pleased to share with all of you that we benefit very much, strengthening further the collaboration, to further scaling up through the South-South and South-South triangular cooperation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Very clear and plenty of considerations for us there. Truly appreciate your examples, really puts things into perspective. So in full support continued collaboration with these intergovernmental organizations and multilateral banks as well. That must continue to be strengthened, and also sharing with us the other options being pursued as well. Highly appreciate that. We're now going to go to our last panelist before we begin with the Q&A. Once again, Ms. Alice Jabana, she's going to be present to take your questions, and we look forward to active discussion. We do want you to be a part of our dialogue here. Our last panelist is Ms. Rabab Fatima, the High Representative for the Least Developed Countries, Landlocked Developing Countries and Small Island Developing States. COVID-19 added a layer of development challenges to most countries under her jurisdiction. Those countries were deeply impacted by the pandemic. The UN Secretary General has noted that solidarity and multilateralism is the best path out of the compounded challenges such as climate change, poverty, inequality, just to name a few. And furthermore, this event is about a call for action on unprecedented scale towards achieving the SDGs. We asked Ms. Fatima how we can leverage South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation to be our stepping stone to tackle these unprecedented challenges faced by least developed countries, landlocked states, and small island developing states. We're also going to find out from her how a ministerial dialogue platform can be of help in this context. So over to Ms. Rabab Fatima for her pre-recorded message.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I'm very pleased to join you in celebrating the United Nations Day for South-South Cooperation. This ministerial dialogue comes at an important moment in our efforts to realize the ambitions of our common agenda. As the COVID-19 pandemic swept through globally, South-South cooperation showed what international solidarity really looks like. And now as we look to rebuild, to achieve sustainable, resilient and inclusive development, we hope that the renewed notion of solidarity holds firm. The pandemic wrought havoc on the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries and small island developing states. Existing vulnerabilities have been exacerbated. Persistent structural handicaps have been aggravated. Years of hard-won progress has been eliminated. Recovery is slow and being hampered by spiraling crisis. Food shortages, rising energy costs, unsustainable debt levels, and an unrelenting climate crisis. And for the LLDCs and the SIDS, the risk of being left further behind is becoming more real. More than ever before, these countries need concrete, targeted, and tailored support. This requires renewed commitment from the international community, innovative solutions, and genuine partnerships. South-South and triangular cooperation is a vital element in the quest for an inclusive and sustainable recovery by the world's most vulnerable countries. The question is how to best leverage this support in implementing the respective programs of actions for the three groups of countries, the LDCs, LLDCs, and the SIDS. In March this year, the LDCs adopted a new 10-year program of action, the Doha Program of Action, with new and ambitious targets and goals. If delivered, the program will meet the needs of millions of people, ensuring a rapid recovery from the pandemic, resilience against future shocks, an end to extreme poverty, graduation from LDC status, and delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals. South-South and triangular cooperation is vital in achieving some of the key deliverables in the DPOA, which includes a new system of stockholding to address food insecurity, a new online university, an international investment support center, and a sustainable graduation support facility. These will all require solidarity of approach from the Global South. In March next year, the 5th UN Conference on the LDCs, the LDC-5, will be held in Doha, Qatar. Alongside many other high-level engagements, a ministerial conference on South-South cooperation will also be convened. This will be an important opportunity to build on today's discussions and to create actionable solutions in support of the implementation of the Doha Programme of Action. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, LLDCs and SIDS are faced with unique development challenges of their own also. They are in dire need of technical assistance and best practices in a number of key areas, such as in building productive capacity, infrastructure, sustainable energy, resilience building, trade, investment, and transit support. South-South and triangular cooperation provides a wealth of knowledge, expertise, and resources that can help in this endeavor. Preparations for the 3rd UN Conference on LLDCs and the 4th International Conference on SIDS in 2024 will start soon. And the new programs of action for the LLDCs and the SIDS will undoubtedly feature multi-stakeholder partnerships and look for further solidarity from the Global South. Excellencies, the notion of leaving no one behind must be a promise fulfilled, and we all have a part to play. The pace of progress in the 91 countries that my office is mandated to support represents the true acid test for the Sustainable Development Goals. We need to mobilize more resources, human, financial, and technical, through South-South and triangular cooperation to achieve those goals. Only then can we be confident of bettering the lives and livelihoods of the 1.3 billion people in the world's most vulnerable countries. A prosperous future requires enhanced global partnerships and greater contributions from partners, North and South. Excellencies, my office, the Office of the High Representative for the Least Developed Countries, the landlocked developing countries, and the small island developing states, continues to collaborate with all UN system partners to build solidarity, mobilize resources, foster peer learning, and promote exchange of best practices through South-South and triangular cooperation. We will look to build on our long-standing commitment in the coming years. The forthcoming LDC 5 in 2023, the 3rd UN Conference on LLDCs, and the 4th International Conference on SIDS in 2024 are huge opportunities to scale up South-South and triangular cooperation. Let us seize the moment and make real that promise of leaving no one behind. There's no time to waste. I look forward to working with you all, and I wish the Global South-South Development Expo 2022 and the Ministerial Dialogue all success. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fatima. Some key themes here that we heard from her was sustainability. Scaling up is also important, resilience, and once again, solidarity. And that's all part of the recovery process and building forward stronger. She's urged for renewed commitment and collaboration from all of us to achieving the SDGs. And also looking forward to the upcoming conferences and meetings as well. I must thank the panelists for their invaluable insights and perspectives on the vital role of South-South solidarity and collaboration to support the delivery of the SDGs, and also on the proposal of establishing an institutionalized ministerial dialogue platform to strengthen solidarity. We're now going to begin with the Q&A, and we do look forward to active discussion here. We've got about 10 minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time. Now, present to respond to your questions, we have His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, who'll join us live via Zoom, and of course Ms. Amida Salsia Alice Jabana, Under Secretary General of the UN Executive Secretary of ESCAP. She's here in person, also very eager, very keen to respond to any questions you may have. But if I may begin with the first question, I'd like to return to our core organizer and host of this expo. Your Excellency, Mr. Momen, in your address at the BAPA Plus 40 conference in Argentina, Your Excellency noted that Bangladesh had explored means to, and I quote, establish a forum of development, finance, economic and foreign ministers of the South to discuss, dialogue and explore the potentials as well as the critical issues of the South in the context of achieving the SDGs. Can you please let us know, in your perspective, how could the setup of a formalized ministerial dialogue further promote South-South cooperation in addressing the compounded challenges of COVID-19 and also vaccine inequity, climate change, poverty, etc.? Please respond to that. And also perhaps if you can share with us some of the outcomes that you envision from an institutionalized setup, please.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, you are right. When I was attending the BAPA Plus 40 in Argentina, I made a proposal for setting up of a forum of South-South finance, foreign and development ministers. And I believe that if we can create such a forum, then the South-South countries can discuss, dialogue, and explore the potential within the South-South countries, and then move forward. The rationale was that, the development partners of late are becoming more protectionist. Development partners are not coming forth with additional financing for the developing country. As an example, I can say that their total financing is around 3% of the total requirement to achieve the SDGs. And if we talk about, the LDCs, their total financing to the LDCs on average is less than 1% of the postulated expenditure for SDGs. There are varieties of estimates for SDGs, but if we consider those, the amount is very negligible. But again, we see that within the southern countries, there are few countries who has accumulated a lot of investment funds, and also their trade volume is also, within the southern countries, the trade volume is also increasing. But if we can marshal those situations, then hopefully it can increase. So how can we take the advantage of the growth in the southern countries and also at the same time help our development partners because they are having difficulties? So to do that, because this should be win-win for both the developed north countries as well as southern countries. So what are the potential within the southern countries? We don't have any forum to discuss. But whenever there is an institutional forum, it helps improve the trade and investment within the region. I gave an example in my opening statement. For example, ASEAN, a 10-member countries. Before ASEAN was started, the total trade of ASEAN was very little, around 10 billion within the ASEAN. But now it has shot up to $2.2 trillion. In 2016, it recorded $2.2 trillion. And not only the trade, inter-trade, also their inter-regional FDI has also increased pretty high. So when there is an institution, the beauty is these leaders can discuss their bottlenecks. They can discuss as to how to help improve, and design policies so that there could be better trade and investment. So therefore, my suggestion was to create a forum of foreign ministers, finance and development ministers of the southern countries under the aegis of the UN. Currently, we have UN Office of South-South Cooperation, high-level Office of South-South Cooperation. That could work as the secretariat of this forum. And the forum members can meet once in a year during the UNGA, they can meet together. So this will give them an opening to critically evaluate their potentials, their critical issues, and in the process they can take corrective actions. So that's why I thought it is high time, and more so during this COVID and Ukraine war, we found that the need for such an institution is ever greater. Because during the COVID, when we are faced with this, the new emerging problem, it was difficult to get vaccine from our development partners in the very beginning. What we did, we had to buy vaccine from the southern countries with cash money in the initial stage. Then, of course, under the COVAX, we received plenty of vaccine later at the part. And I must say Bangladesh did very well in terms of the COVID management. Our death rate is very minimal. We managed this because we very efficiently and effectively managed the COVID situation. And that was possible because initially we have some southern countries that came forward, and then, of course, under the COVAX, we get enough vaccine to vaccinate our people. So I strongly believe it is time, because even in the Ukraine war and the COVID, our supply chain disrupted, our financial transaction chain disrupted. To overcome those, many countries are talking about regional cooperation and partnership. We believe we need multilateralism. We need to make multilateralism more stronger. And my proposal of creating a forum is basically leads to multilateralism. If we have such a forum, there will be emerging issues in the future. When there are emerging issues in the future, then immediately that forum can sit together and try to find out ways as to how to handle the problem. So that's why I strongly believe that it is time to create a forum of finance, foreign and development ministers of the southern countries under the aegis of UN. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, so much for sharing your thoughts, your suggestions there. Highly appreciated. We aim for a win-win situation for all. Open to the floor now. Do we have any questions from the participants here? We do have a question from the lady in the back, please.
Thank you very much, Excellencies and honorable speakers, for a very insightful and most informative session. My name is Meera Tiwari from the University of East London in London, UK. I'm very privileged to be part of this session. My question is to perhaps all the speakers and whoever wishes to respond. It was very informative and to learn about the government-to-government cooperation, the South-South cooperation at the institutional level, with excellent examples, exemplars. I would appreciate your comment on the role of other actors in development, civil societies, private sector, both during the pandemic, in mitigating pandemic circumstances and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Glad to have you here from the UK. Perhaps we can have Ms. Alice Jabana. Would you like to reflect on her question first?
Yes, thank you very much for your questions. And indeed, you bring up a very important question, which is the roles of stakeholders. Again, if we mention stakeholders, of course, it means all stakeholders here, including CSOs, as well as the private sector. And several of the SDGs, or all the SDGs actually, we cannot only rely on government per se. Of course, government needs to take the lead. Yeah. For example, if we just take the example of SDG, how we can implement, how we can regain the momentum of SDGs. For sure, government has to take the lead, but government cannot do it alone. It needs to be the whole of government approach, commitment, as well as the whole of society. Society meaning the CSOs as well as private sector. Let me give you one concrete example, in terms of SDGs, which now because of the climate emergency, climate action priority, which is on the energy sector, SDG 7. One of the particular issue is how to scale up renewable energy. If we want to scale up renewable energy, it means what? It means research and development, it means technology, it means investment, it means finance. So therefore it's very clear that we need also the private sector. Otherwise, without the contribution of private sector in the investment as well as scaling up of all these renewable energy opportunities, we will not advance so much on SDG 7. Likewise, on let's say on the business sector, in ESCAP, we are also promoting the so-called inclusive business in impact investment. How to link also not only for profit, but for the social motives to advance SDGs. So therefore, we also partner, team up, and support the private sector, and involving also the other stakeholders. And just one quick note, in our various intergovernment meetings, again, this is not only at the global level in New York, but regional level as country level, we are increasingly inviting and involving all stakeholders. For example, in our case, that ESCAP convene each year, APFSD. Last time was in March. This is a very vibrant event or forum, intergovernment forum, in which all major stakeholders, so-called stakeholders, and now is developed even further. It used to be only 9, and now it has grown more than maybe close to 20 now, and all the major stakeholders participated actively. So again, thank you very much for the question.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive response to that important question on the role of other stakeholders. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up the Q&A session because we really are going over time. And I'm sure that you'll agree with me that we gained a lot of valuable insight from our 1-hour discussion there. And I'm also so sure that you agree that South-South and triangular cooperation offer pathways to address both immediate as well as long-term challenges and needs. And very importantly, together we can take those actions. We can support countries to get back on track towards the 2030 agenda and the achievement of the SDGs. And now I'm going to pass the floor to Ms. Xiaojun Grace Wang, the head of the delegation of the United Nations Office of South-South Cooperation, for the closing remarks. Over to you, Ms. Wang.
Thank you very much for this very smooth moderation and with very important questions raised in connecting all the remarks. Thank you very much. Of course, first of all, let me thank the Foreign Minister from Bangladesh, who has been a strong champion in keep advocating and requesting the international community to advance South-South cooperation at a level that is not just managerial, but strategic coordination level. Thank you very much. And we thank all the foreign ministers who contributed to this dialogue, especially Foreign Minister from Argentina on behalf of HLC, Foreign Minister Malawi on behalf of LDC group. And we heard from you the urgent need of leveraging the great potential of South-South and triangular cooperation to support pandemic recovery and sustainable development. We thank the Under-Secretary General, Executive Secretary of UNOSSC, High Representative of UNOHRLS for your remarks, and thank you so much. I would like to just take 4 key points from this dialogue and share our commitment on how to move forward. First, I think, yes, we are in an era that the world is earnestly needs inclusive and networked multilateralism to help us resolve the challenges that is so complex, unprecedented scale. Multilateralism is the key that we have in our hand, but how do we best use of that? So today's dialogue, I think, is a very important contribution of ideas and proposals towards building such a multilateralism. And South-South and triangular cooperation can definitely be a part of it. Secondly, I heard the re-emphasizing of the need for ministerial level dialogue and coordination consultation mechanism to advance South-South and triangular cooperation to address those challenges. Thirdly, I think we have heard many critical and transformative areas that matters for Global South. And these are the areas we need to rally around. We need to put our wisdom together, policies, and pool resources together. I do have a question in my mind, which I think in the moving forward, we could benefit from the guidance from the member states a lot. That is, there's a lot of areas in terms of digital technology, public health, productive capacity, infrastructure, financing, transportation. I actually listed a whole page of areas that we have highlighted today. I guess in the future discussions, I hope that we can be further guided on the priorities and leverage those areas that can really give us multiple impact and benefits so that we can support such a mechanism to focus on those areas. And then the next point is the very good example shared from the Executive Secretary from ESCAP about UN's strengthening collaboration with regional and sub-regional mechanisms, the ASEAN UN Platform of Action. I think it's an inspiration to us to think about how do we further support the proposed cross-sectoral ministerial coordination mechanism. We should learn in the spirit of South-South cooperation from the existing and ongoing UN engagement with such multilateral mechanisms. So moving forward, our office is very demand-driven. That is the basic principle of South-South cooperation. So we would of course, actively respond to the demand of member states already expressed in the BAPA Plus 40 conference and also the recent HLC discussions. So we would like to support the further consultation on the possibility of establishing such a ministerial level mechanism. Utilizing UN multilateral platforms already exist, as highlighted by foreign ministers, including the General Assembly occasion or the maybe high-level political forum, and of our own Global South-South Development Expo. In the upcoming LDC 5, we will have the first focused ministerial dialogue on South-South cooperation on issues matter to LDCs. And today is the first dialogue, but we hope that through the continued consultation, we would have a clear picture and the roadmap to establishing such a mechanism. And I heard from multi-stakeholder, from the voice of civil society organizations, and also the suggestion from the foreign minister from Argentina to highlight that during these intergovernmental consultations, we should also be inclusive and really engaging all stakeholders. So these are the takeaway from today's dialogue. Again, thank you very much. And I hope throughout the 3 days and thereafter, we can have continued conversation on this very strategic initiative and proposal. Thank you very much.
Ms. Wang, thank you so much for your closing remarks and summary of the key points raised. Plenty of takeaways, plenty for us to think about and to translate into immediate action. And that's going to officially conclude our ministerial dialogue by UNOSSC. Please enjoy your lunch, distinguished guests, and join us once again for the third roundtable on strengthening multi-hazard early warning for disaster and health resilience in ASEAN. That will commence at 2:15 right here. Thank you for your kind attention and participation. I am Pachari Raksawong on behalf of UNOSSC. สวัสดีค่ะ
Recording stopped.
Distinguished participants, we have already indulged ourselves with food for thought, and now it's time for us to refill our energy with a lunch break at the cafeteria, which is located on level 1. Light lunch will also be served on level 2. We wish you a lovely lunch. Thank you.
I didn't know she was going to be there, so I just thought, oh, thank you so much. I wouldn't have done that, without your help. Thank you. I tried to be really loud, like wake up. Seriously, thank you. Do you know everything was just from your script, right?
You read it sound.